Yes, yes. Once again, we are live. We are live. Y'all know what it is. It's the Reentry Connect podcast, and I'm your host, Keenan Hudson. Yes, Reflections with Miss Carin Seals. Another powerful story, y'all. Y'all know how we do it. We don't play no games when we come up on here getting live. So without further ado, I just got to give a couple little shout out to Mr. Wells, one day at a time. We appreciate you for all the reentry support, all of the different types of addiction support. And better yet, Mr. Mel Wells, you know you got this little event coming up. One Love, One Philadelphia, Candlelight and Visual. It's a community thing. Yes, on June 26th. If y'all didn't register now. Go to the site. It's going to be at the Met. Yes, in Philadelphia. Got a lot of different people being on here, a lot of different honorees and things like that. It's a community festival. So feel free to come out there and support Mr. Mel Wells, for he does a lot for the community in the city of Philadelphia. Another shout out to GPStransportation.net. You know that they're the best transportation company in the city. Yes, tri-state. Anywhere you need to go, they're willing to take you there. Reach out to them at 215-774-9913 for back to the program. Yes, I'm here with Miss Carin Seals. Powerful testimony here, y'all. Yes, through the prisons, through so many things, through so many heartaches in life. But I'm not going to hold it too long. Miss Carin, go ahead and introduce yourself and let the people know who you are and where you're from.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carin Seals. I'm coming to you live from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I'm just here. Like, I am a survivor of the prison system. And I'm just here to share my story and hope that it, shed light, to other people who may have been in the same predicament or see themselves in the same predicament as I was in.
Wow. So, Miss Carin, could you go ahead and just share, some of your story about your upbringing? How were things, when you were growing up over there in Lancaster, PA? Did you have an easy childhood? How were things, were things hard for you? Just share a little bit of your story.
Okay. So, yeah, growing up in Lancaster, where some people say Lancaster if you're not from here. But in Lancaster, we're considered the Amish town because most people from that's not from here, all you see is like horse and buggies as you're coming in. So a lot of questions I used to always get, like, are there black people in Lancaster? So growing up in Lancaster, it was carefree. It was like you slept with your doors open. Everybody knew everybody. The neighborhood, like, everyone looked out for each other. So if I was, of course, like, most people say growing up, like, if I was down the street acting up, that neighbor corrected me. We was all family, and I had a really good upbringing. I always say that we weren't rich as a whole in monetary, but my grandmother just gave us so much love. Like, it was just like we was rich in love, and we had traditions. Our family was close knit. I was primarily raised by my maternal grandmother. My parents were addicts. Growing up, my mom and dad were addicts, but I wasn't even affected by that. Like, I was just so active and involved that I didn't realize that my parents were addicts.
Mm. Wow. So throughout this time, you growing up and things like that, because we know you have a strong story behind you, going into the prisons and things like that. Now, what type of things led up to you being led, or landing into the prison system?
Okay, so like I said, being from a small town, our family was popular. So being that we was a popular family, when out of towners or people from, say, like New York, Philadelphia, they would migrate to our town in an attempt to, like, make money. So that's hustling, selling drugs, whatever. So a lot of those people who migrated from out of town, they gravitated to our family. So our family became known as, uh, you know, drug dealers or something like
Mhm.
that. So drugs was always around me growing up. I always, well, I didn't really know because, like I said, my grandmother kept me sheltered. But at the age of 10, she passed away. And, like, when she passed away, it's like the skills came off my eyes. It was really like Adam and Eve situation. Like she passed away, and it's like the same house that I left from that I returned back to was like a transformation overnight. Like everything that she sheltered me from, I was exposed to. So then
Wow.
I seen realized my mom was an addict, and then I seen drug dealers being around and people coming in and out the house, and so I was just exposed to it at a really young age. So it's like at 10 years old, I seen a lot. I seen a whole lot at 10 years old. And
Wow.
my mom, she moved to a drug infested street out here where we live called Green Street, and we were like dead smack in like the crime.
Hmm.
So that was that's when the exposure came.
Exposure came. Wow.
Mhm.
Shout out to Miss Helen McCarter. She says, "You look beautiful, sis." I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, you know who that is. Yeah, they shouted you out. That's a blessing. So now you said at this
thanks,
time that
sis.
the exposure came. It's powerful because a lot of young women in this world today, are facing so many different struggles, heartaches, and pains growing up. Such as yourself. So when you started dealing in the streets, was there any type of way that you could turn away from the streets, or was the streets just constantly tugging on you, or was it the peers, or what was going on during that time?
So that was the blessing. That was definitely the blessing. My grandmother instilled so much into me, so much morals. She planted that seed of faith in me at a tender age. So I didn't become victim of my environment. Like I always just seen life beyond my current environment. I was just always into school. I was active into track. So I was on a track team. So I was constantly busy. So even though I was around so much negative activity, I didn't become victim to it. So that's kind of what saved me. I always kept in my mind like I want to make my nanny proud, even in her absence. I still kept that in my mind. So a lot of people seen the potential in me. So I was always the one like, okay, you're going to succeed. You're going to go here. Like I was always pushed. I had an uncle and an aunt that graduated college, and my uncle Trenton was like, "You're going to college,"
Yeah.
and he just pushed me.
Hmm. So they pushed you through. So then now leading up to your arrest and your incarceration, how did that affect such a child as yourself, because you came up with a good upbringing, you had good support behind you, but you still wound up narrowing down the wrong path, correct?
Correct. Correct.
And could you share or try to enlighten the viewers or the listeners of how did that transpire?
Okay. And mine, I would say just not having a solid foundation. So I was the type of person that, like a people pleaser, and I was the type of person that I succeeded, I had success. I wanted everybody else to come along with me. So I didn't know how to separate myself from home and then my successful life. So after I graduated from college, I moved to Delaware, but I was still coming back home. I was still coming home even during college. Every weekend I had to be home. After I graduated, I still found myself coming back home, hanging out, partying with the same people, and so that's what happened. Like the same guys that I grew up with, I still found myself attached to them. So now, okay, Carin, you're the good girl per se. So you got the credit, you got the license, you got this. So it's like, okay, can you rent me a car? Can you get this for me? Can you put this in your name for me? And that's how it started.
Wow. So it started with that. So then people were becoming like usury unto you, correct? Like they were
Yeah, in
coming.
a sense. Yeah. I looked at it at the time of having fun. I'm hanging out with these guys, they're getting money. I'm going on a little shopping spree. I'm going here, we're going in the club, being VIP. Like I'm looking at it as fun. I'm not even looking at the consequences. I'm just like, oh, we're having fun. This is
Mm.
living.
So bang, so it hit you when you knew that you were going to be away from your family for a very long time. What was that feeling like?
I didn't even know I was going to be away from my family for a very long time.
Wow.
So what happened was when I landed my first job out of college, I worked at a bank. And I
Mhm.
was there for about like a year or so. And then I started dating this guy. And then in time, as I'm venting to him about my job, this and that, he's in his mind thinking of a master plan. So he asked me one day, like, "Oh, can you wire me some money?" And I was like, "No." And
Wow.
then as time went on, I end up eventually wiring him money, and that's how it started. So when I say click of the button, so once I clicked that button and I sent that first wire out, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to jail." So
Mm-hmm.
from then on, I was like, I didn't stop though. I kept sending more money, more money, more money. And I just got caught up in a wire
Mm-hmm.
fraud. But it
Wow.
didn't come. So I resigned from the job. And then it was like a year later after I resigned from the job that they came knocking at my door.
Wow.
So, but in the midst of that, I just was self destructing because I was like, oh, I'm going to jail. Like, I'm really going to jail. Like, oh my God, I got myself
Mm-hmm.
in deep. And everything that I worked so hard for, I threw away. I threw away, and I didn't know how to bounce back from that.
How to bounce.
So
Wow.
once I knew I was going to jail for the wire fraud, then
Mm-hmm.
everything else I just started
Wow, that's
doing.
powerful. So when you're speaking of wire fraud, and before I get to that, Miss Antoinette, she said they took advantage of you. You didn't even see it coming. Yes, very powerful. Um, and speaking on that, now when you speak of wire fraud and things like that, so usually a lot of this stuff has to coincide with like federal prison. I'm assuming,
Mhm, mhm.
correct? So now you see that these things were happening. Now this time you had a family outside of there. You know, I know you had your mother, your grandmother. You said she passed away, but so what other things did you have at risk when you knew that you was going to have to do time?
Well, at the time, I was just selfish. I only thought of myself. I didn't have any kids. My life was just like I was just living a life. Like I didn't have any
Hmm.
kids. I was just living on my car. I
Yeah.
didn't have to, but I was just jet setting like that. Like I was just
Hmm.
that person. If you called me, I might have hit 3 states in one day. Just whatever. Like you couldn't keep up with me. I was just really living
Yeah.
in the fast lane of life. And then I'm like 22, 23. I got money. I got this. Like it didn't matter. I was just like whatever. So um, I ended up getting involved with a guy who eventually ended up catching a murder case. And
Hmm.
so this is before the feds came in, even asking about the wire fraud. So I resigned from the job. Within that year, so about '08, I resigned from the job. So between '08 and '09, I get into a relationship. And then the relationship ends with this person being charged with murder, and now I'm getting a knock at the door, and I think the knock is because of him, and the knock is me, like for me, and they're like, oh yeah, we have questions about this wire fraud. So I'm like, oh my goodness, because they had hit me with a civil suit. So I didn't think that anything was going to happen because the civil suit got dismissed, and my lawyer was like, since they didn't hit you with the civil suit, it got dismissed, you should be okay.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking I'm out the clear, I'm okay. The next thing you know, they came knocking. So after they came knocking, now I'm out on pretrial release, waiting to get sentenced for the wire fraud. So within that time from me getting sentenced, so we'll say we're about in '09 now. So I don't get sentenced to 2011. So from '09 to 2011, I'm on the streets. And you would think like, okay, you're about to go to prison, chill out. No, that's when I start now transporting drugs across state line and
Wow.
thinking that I'm still going to be okay. I'm thinking, okay, I'm just transporting drugs. I'm not getting caught. So I'm not going to jail because I'm not getting caught. I thought that you had to actually get caught in action of doing
Hmm.
the crime.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I didn't realize that the feds only took two people to actually say that you did something for it to be true. So here I'm just transporting drugs, making some quick money, and then next thing you know, I go to get sentenced March 7th. I get sentenced on my wire fraud, and they give me 4 years, 48 months.
Wow.
Within this time, I get pregnant though on pretrial release. So now I
Wow.
have a baby. So now I got things to think about. Prior to everything, I wasn't pregnant. I didn't have a kid. But now I'm on pretrial release, knowing I'm going to prison, and then I end up pregnant. I'm like, oh my God, really? Are you serious?
Well, yeah, yeah.
Are you serious? So I had to make a decision. Do I be selfish and, have an abortion, or do I just, have my baby and just face the consequences? And I made the selfless decision to keep my baby, and it was a hard decision. I mean, I cried for months, but I made the decision to keep her, and I feel like that was God's blessing. It gave me hope, and it gave me something to look forward to during my incarceration.
Wow, wow, wow. So in the midst of all this, you conceived, and then on top of that, you got so many things that's just awaiting, not even knowing, what you were facing beyond that. So now during this time, so you get sentenced and everything. What eventually started happening once the baby was born? Like,
Okay, so I get sentenced. I had my daughter January 3rd. So 2 months later, March 7th, I get sentenced to 48 months. And the judge gave me 30 days to turn myself in.
wow.
So, oh, I'm lying. Hold on, let me back up. I had my daughter January 3rd, February 7th, I get sentenced. So a month later, I get sentenced to 48 months. The judge gave me 30 days to turn myself in, which would have been March 7th. So he gave me to March 7th to, have 30 days with my daughter and everything,
Hmm.
and get my affairs in order. Within those 30 days, the feds came in and indicted me, a second superseding indictment on a drug charge. I didn't see that coming at all. I did not see that coming. So I was preparing for 48 months. And 2 weeks later, after getting sentenced, they indicted me on a whole nother charge.
Wow.
So now my daughter's only about 7 weeks at this time, and I'm snatched away from her. They just came into the house, handcuffed
Mhm.
me, and took me out. And I didn't come back home until she was 10. Like, I never
Wow.
came back out that day. So it was
So,
March 7th. February 22nd, 2011 is when I was arrested.
so you spent a total of 10 years in prison.
Correct.
Wow. So 10 years after they came, stacked charges on you. They didn't run a concurrent. They ran everything wild. So here it is. You're away from your family. Your family's growing up without you. So how was your mental state throughout doing this time? I know you say you were crying for months straight. Did you ever think that you was going to be able to make it home to enjoy your family and things like that, or did you just walk through prison with a straight run?
No, not at all. I spent 2.5 years in the county waiting to get sentenced. So for 2.5 years, I was in limbo. I knew I had 4 years, that was guaranteed. But I had no idea what was going to happen on the case that I was sitting in county waiting to get sentenced on. So those 2.5 years was the most trying time. That was the hardest time of my whole incarceration. Those 2.5 years I spent in county prison waiting to get sentenced. Because
Mhm.
during that time, 6 months into my bed, my brother was murdered. He was
Oh, I'm so
22. So I had my daughter. She's 7 weeks. I leave her. Then my daughter. Then my brother, same mom, same dad. He gets murdered. So now I got to deal with that. I can't go to the funeral. I can't do anything. I have to just process that. But you can't really process. You can't grieve in prison because, one, if you cry too much, you're on suicide watch. If they feel like something's going to happen to you, so you have to cry in the shower,
wow.
cry in your bed at night in your pillow, and then you got to put on a brave face in the morning when that door pops back open, and you hit outside, because they're watching you. Um,
Wow.
I had to deal with that. I had to deal with, on top of me having my daughter, since my only child, then my daughter's father, he ended up getting, two other girls pregnant. So I had to deal with that. I had to deal with my other cousin getting murdered.
Mhm.
I had to deal with my stepdad passing away.
Oh, I'm
Deal with
sorry.
my two aunts, no, three aunts passing away. So death would just happen back to back to back.
Back to
And
back.
so, but within those 2.5 years, while I was waiting, I got to build my faith, because my mom said to me, she said, baby, well, first of all, my mom, she was just like my backbone. I wouldn't have done it without her. Like, she just
Mhm.
always spoke life into me. So when she told me, she was like, you have to trust God. Like, you have to, like, pray. And I was like, God can't help me out of this. But you talking about praying like God cannot help me.
Wow.
And but no, I did. Like I had to really get into my word. And my first roommate, my first bunkie, she was like inviting me to church, one Bible study, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna go. I just want to get out of my cell anyway. I'm gonna go. Didn't think anything of it, you know. And then I went and I met this amazing lady, Miss Judy, and I was there every Tuesday, every Bible study.
Wow. And this is before your bid started.
This is before my bid starts. This is why I'm
So
in
this
county.
was in the county. So you automatically said, "Look, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this, but just so happened your breakthrough was down in the county."
Mm-hmm.
So when you had that breakthrough down the county, was everything almost a smooth cakewalk after that, or did you still go through a lot of different trials during that time?
Oh, I still went through trials. So after I got sentenced, so like I said, I was 4 years. I knew what I was doing. I went to court, and they gave me. He sentenced me to 121 months with the 48 months on top of it. Um, no, no, no. He gave me 150. He gave me 12 years and 9 months. The judge sentenced me on the drug case, 12 years, 9 months, and then ran the 4 years to it. So it came out to 199 months total, which came out to 16 years, 9 months. That was my sentence. So
Got
before I even hit the feds, my sentence was 16 years and 9 months. That's what I was looking at. So to get sentenced in 2013 and to have it outdate in 30 something, yeah, I couldn't see the end. No, I
you.
could not see me making it to that to 30 something. No, I couldn't see it.
Got you.
All I thought about was how old my daughter was going to be by the time I came home. And
Wow.
I just kept saying to my mom, like, oh my God, how am I going to do this time? How am I going to do this time? And she looked at me, she said, we are going to do this time. And we are going to do this time one day at a time. She said, don't look at next year. Don't look at 5 years from now. Don't even look at tomorrow. We're going to
Wow.
take this one day at a time. And she
That's
said,
powerful.
that was powerful, and I didn't understand. I'm just crying and crying.
Yeah.
She said, you got 24 hours. She said, get out your system. You got 24 hours. And that's it. You want a bigger prison now. Tighten up
Wow.
your put on your bigger panties, and we're going to do this time.
You want to do this time?
I was like,
Only your mom. Only your mom is crazy. That's why anybody, if you have a mother out there right now, you better cherish your mother. I understand that some mothers may have not been in some of the kids' lives, things like that. But for the ones that have, even if you know a mother figure, somebody that's been there down for you, ready to ride, man, cherish them while they're still alive.
man,
You know what I mean? Because I can relate to it. Like my mother passing away before I went to prison. But I tell you one thing, like there's nothing like a mother. But I'm sorry to interrupt you. But if you wanted to continue, because I was going to ask too. So when you started that time with your mom having your back the way she did, um, here goes Richard Sills. She says, every time I hear your story, it brings me to tears. That's a blessing and shouting you out on there.
up in my baby
Um,
uncle.
so during that time, you started your time. You had your mom on your backbone. You were building your faith and things like that. Um, it was a question here on LinkedIn. It says, "Oh my gosh, how did you stay positive through all of that? You are a very strong woman." So what type? So piggybacking off of that question, how did you stay like focused through all that throughout your time? Did you occupy your time by going to school, or did you learn from your mistakes, or like what type of things? Enlighten the viewers and listeners of the type of things you did to get over that hump.
Okay. So of course my faith was number one. Number two was my mom. Like every time I had a dark moment, I called her, and she always said to me, she said, understand people and stop trying to be understood. She said, you're calling home and I'm putting life back into you. But you're already in a dark place. And there's some people in there that may be calling home and they're getting negativity fed right back into their spirits. So she said, just understand people. So I went through my bed just understanding people, not being controversial, not trying to prove myself, not trying to big myself up. Because when you get to the feds, I say this is my slogan. They say the army, you can be all you can be. Well, in
Yeah,
prison, in feds, you can be all you can be. Like people make up all type of stories to
absolutely.
glamorize their life, and especially if you hit fed status. When you
Yeah,
hit Fed status, everybody made money. Like, oh, you're feds, or you doing Fed time, oh, you was getting money. Like, so
For that
people
time,
take
yeah,
that and run with it.
and run
So
with it.
I just tried not to be, judgmental, just be open. But at the same time, they said to me, when I got to, so once I got sentenced, I had to go through Philadelphia. And that was like your classification, waiting until you get classified till you make it to your actual prison. And there was
Yeah.
this one lady, she came to me. She was from, I think, DC. No, she's from New York. She's from New York. And she seen me and she seen I was always just giving and looking out for people and this and that. And she
Hmm.
was like, you need to tighten up. She
Yeah.
said, you need to tighten up because the people will walk all over you. They're going to take advantage of you. So she kind of schooled me because it's my first time ever in any type of prison or anything like that. And like I said,
Gotcha.
I'm coming from a small town. I got this personality like, hey, 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 how you doing? I'm always
Yeah.
smiling.
Yeah.
Like, you're too happy. They're like, you're too happy to be here. But
Hmm.
I just didn't change. Like one of my guy friends, he said, don't ever change who you are. If you wake up every morning, say good morning, it don't matter if no one says nothing back to you. You still stay true to who you are.
Mm.
So that helped me. And like I said, I took all the programs I could take. I took all the
Mhm.
classes that I could take because they definitely offer you a lot of classes. I took college courses. I learned how to crochet, so I crocheted my entire bid. I was always making stuff for my daughter, sending it home. I wrote,
Wow.
I journaled. I journaled a lot.
Mm.
And like I said, I was at a camp. So when I got sentenced, I was told, "Oh, you're not going to go to a camp. You got too much time. You can't go to
Mm.
a camp with 16 years over your head." And once
Wow.
again, my mom, once again, she said, "Baby, we serve a God who sits high and looks down low. So if
Mm.
we want you to
Come
go to
on.
a camp, you're going to a camp." So
Come on.
sure enough, when I got my sheet, it said it couldn't tell me where I was going, but the lady was like, "You're going to camp." So once I actually made it to Oklahoma and got my, they said, "You know where you're going?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Oh, you're going to Alderson." Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to a camp.
Wow. So you knew where you was going. So
Yeah.
here it is. You occupied your mind during this time.
Mhm.
You know, so most people don't understand. Like they try to say, "Oh yeah, well when I get home, I could change my life. If I wasn't living a certain way before I got here, I'm not going to live that way until I get back out." But you occupied your mind. You educated yourself. You kept your faith. You know, you built yourself up by any means necessary. So now it came a time when you knew you were about to be released, right? Now, what went through your mind? Did you have any clue of how things were going to be? Did you think you were going to have a good relationship with your daughter once you got out? Did you have plans on seeing your parents, your mom and everybody? Like what were going through your mind at that time?
So here's the kicker with me. I didn't know I was coming home. So
Mhm.
I had when I got to the Alderson, I hung around people who already had time in, people who had 10 years in, who people who was just like old heads. Like, I didn't hang with people my age. I hung with people
Mhm.
who could school me because at that time, I was still, little still wanted to do my time how I wanted to do my time. So I had to get with some people who had some time in. And I had this older lady, her name was Mama. And she
Yeah.
said to me, I said, I watched her one time at visitation and she had like 16 years or more in. And I was like, dang, how's she interacting with her kids or whatever? So when we got back up to the compound, I asked her, I said, how do you still have a relation with your kids after all this time? And by this time, my daughter's about 3. And she said to me, I never forget it, she said, if you do not detach yourself from your daughter, she would never detach herself from you. She was like, you just stay involved in her life. You constantly send her stuff. You constantly just write her. You constantly just let her know that you're present. Because she said a lot of people get behind, get the prison and they detach themselves completely from the outside world and they won't have no relationship with their kid. And then they expect to come
Mhm.
home and to have one. So that's what I did. I took that advice and I constantly wrote her. I journaled. I wrote her a journal when I was in there. I would send her stuff all the time. And
Mhm.
then the feds end up getting video visits. So now I'm videoing with her every week. So I constantly stayed involved. And I thought that I had an amazing relationship with my daughter. Even in my absence. Because every time I talked to her, hey mommy, I love you. I love you more, more, more. She would just always say that to me. Um, and until I came home, you know.
So you came. Okay, so before you came home, okay, so Miss Candy Walker here is saying, thank God for godly women and keeping their faith in Him. He said to instill Him into their kids. She's a beautiful queen. Thank you for sharing your story. So now, until you came home, so you built this bond. So during the time, let me get this straight. So during the time you were doing your time, your mom was actually raising your daughter, correct?
Well, no, it was a whole it took a whole tribe to raise my daughter.
Okay,
So
okay, the whole time.
my mom had my daughter, and then like I said, my brother was murdered, and then she lost her husband. So it was just a
Wow.
lot for her. My uncle who was on here, Richard, he had him and his wife and his daughter, his family had her for about a year or so, 2 years, and then
Wow.
her dad had her, and then she ended up with her dad's mother,
Okay.
and Miss Darnella raised her for about 5 6 years. She had her, so Nala primarily was with her.
Wow. So she actually knows a lot of her family and things like that.
Yeah, everyone helped out. My sister, my older sister would get her like on the weekends, every other weekend. My baby
Okay.
sister
So it was a
kept her
village.
fresh
So,
with all
so
her clothes. You know, my
mhm.
aunt and cousin in Baltimore, they had her like it. Everyone chipped in. My friends, they would chip in, send
Wow.
stuff. Like I mean, everyone raised,
Wow.
had a hand in, you know, raising
Yeah.
her, and so she knew me. And
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't know I was coming home. So quick story, uh,
Yeah.
COVID hit in
Yeah.
2020. COVID hit. So this time I outdate. I had a couple reductions that took place because another lady told me, she said, whatever you do not give up fighting. You follow every motion, you give up, you put in for this, even if it don't even pertain to you, follow it. Only thing I can say is no. And you already heard the worst when you got sentenced, so a no shouldn't hurt
Yeah.
you at all. So she said, don't give up fighting. And that's what happened. I didn't give up fighting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was COVID hit. They opened up compassion release. If you have a family member that's sick, that's raising your child, and if something shall happen to that person, then no one will be able to care for your child. So we filed compassion release um, on behalf of my mother. Within that time, my mom got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh
So
wow.
I found out Mother's Day 2019 that my mother had cancer.
Well,
So
I'm sorry.
yeah, so by 2020, she hit stage 4 by about a year or so later.
Wow.
So I filed compassion release. I put in, well, first you had to file with the warden. So I filed with the
Mhm.
warden. And if they didn't respond back in a certain time, you can go straight to your judge. So when
Yeah.
Trump came into office, he did sign that over that, changed that act.
Wow.
And, so that happened. And then I filed. Then I had a sis, a friend that, in prison, you build family relationships,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
all, she was looking at 30. I'm in there. I was like my big sis, but we bumped heads because she wanted to tell me, how to do the time because she got more time in. So she's like, sis, like she will always be on me. And she didn't give up on me. So I came to her one day and I was like, this is the response from my compassion release from the DA. I mean, he dug my back in. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, why I should not come home? I'm an unfit mother. I'm this, and that. He just tore me down. And I said to her, I need you to help me respond. And she read it and she came back to me. She's like, sis, no, we gotta get a lawyer. I can't do this. I'm
Well,
like, no, you can do this. So she wrote it up. She spent all weekend. She wrote it up and she came back to me. She prayed and stuff, very spiritual woman. And she came back and she was like, man, this sucked the life out of me. But I read it and I said, well, sis, I'm going home. After I
yeah.
read it, I said, yeah. So her name is Angela Wright. I said, sis, I'm going home. And we sent it. Didn't think
Mm.
of it. I just sent it off. And about a month or so later, we're in December now. So about in December,
Yeah.
uh, my mom messaged me and like, call me. And when I called her, she was like, the probation officer just came to the house to look at the house.
Wow.
The judge sent him, and there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. But I just feel like
Yeah.
something's going to happen. And so I'm like, okay. So I go back to my case manager and I'm like, this is what happened. And mind you, all year I told this man, my case manager, I'm going
Yeah.
home. I was like, I don't know how I'm going home, when I'm going home, but I'm going home this year.
Yeah.
And he would always mess with me like, we're in December. You going home? I was like, I'm going home. He used to walk past the unit, and I have my pen in my hand. I'm like, Mr. Williams, I got my pen. I'm ready to sign because I'm going home this year. And he's like, man, you ain't going nowhere. He would always mess with me, and I didn't believe it at first. But then as time went on, I started to believe it. I'm going home, so I started claiming it.
So how long did it take until you received confirmation?
So this was October that we put the paperwork in, and in December is when my mom told me that the probation office came to the house. And then I'm sitting in the room one day with my roommate, and I'm like, she's like, we need to claim a date. And so I was like, all right. So we start saying, well, Christmas is on the 25th. We ain't gonna claim Christmas Eve. So we was like December 22nd. So then we start saying it. I'm going home December 22nd.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I told him, I was like, I'm going home December 22nd. I'm lying. I said December 23rd. I told him, I said, I'm going home December 23rd. So I went to him. I said, I'm going home December 23rd. December 22nd, the lady called me down the hallway, and she was like, you know your mom's your mom's phone number by heart? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm thinking something happened to my mom. So she put me in the office, and she was like, you're going home today. I'm like, what? She said,
Wow.
you're going home. You got immediate release. You're going home today.
Same day.
I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. Like, I couldn't believe it. I called my mom. She was screaming. She called my older sister. She's screaming. Like, they couldn't believe that I was going home. And then
Wow.
she said to me, she said, you told Mr. Williams you was going to be home on December 23rd. She said, by the time your bus gets back to Lancaster, it's going to be December 23rd.
Mm,
And
that's powerful.
that was so powerful. And
You
he came
spoke it into existence.
into existence. And he came to me and he said, your faith got you home. He said it to me. He came to me and
Wow.
he said, I just wanted to let you know your faith got you home.
Yeah, that's a blessing. Right here, the person from LinkedIn, she said, I have to go to work, but I'm so thankful to hear part of your story. I wish you could talk to my daughter and teach her to carry herself like a woman of faith and the grace God meant for you. Thank you. Be blessed. Bless you. Yeah, I believe his story is really impactful to people. It's even people over here on Instagram as well. Shout out to Pain Word. They're saying different things, whether you know it or not. You were encouraging my sister as well of many days. Empowerment logistics. It says we'll let you coming home. So you pretty much answered a lot of that. Who's that? Dapper Dell, powerful speaker, because she's, so that's probably your cousin. So a lot of people over here giving you love, a lot of different shout outs. Glenn Lewis inspires as well. So if you're gonna go ahead and share, so you came home, you said your mom was sick and things like that. So what was your experience once you did transition out here in the world, facing, you having to get back contact with your daughter, your family, and pick up, sort of where you left off?
Um, the hardest coming back home and getting back into society, that wasn't the hard part. You would think like society is going to judge me. Society is going to be hard for me to get a job. It's going to be hard for people to look at me as being rehabilitated. You would think that wasn't my battle. My biggest battle was my family.
Yeah.
My biggest battle was my daughter. She was one of my biggest battles. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. I left her at 7 weeks old. She's 10. I'm
Mhm.
coming home and I have no attachment to her because you have to detach your emotions. Now, I didn't detach myself from her, but you have to sort of detach your emotions from the outside world because you're powerless. What can I do? You know, when my brother died, when my stepdad died, when my aunts passed away, I couldn't go to their funeral. I can't grieve their death. I have to detach them emotions. My mom's sick with cancer. I have to detach that emotion because
Yeah,
I still cry every day. I still gotta stand up for count. I still gotta go to work. Ain't no bereavement. I still gotta go to work.
yeah,
I still have to do all these things. So I was emotionally detached.
yeah.
If I could have a do-over, it would be great because then I came home. So the first 24 hours, oh, it was amazing. I'm home. Everybody love me, Carin, welcome home, da 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 da
Mhm.
da da da. And then after that, reality set in. Oh, you was
How-
10 years here with your daughter. Oh, mommy was sick. We was taking care of mommy. This, there, here
wow.
was this. You would get a job. You got to work. You got to get a place. Like it's not like you know, to me, I feel like, when men come home, you don't have to worry about being a father. You don't have to worry about providing a house for your kid, this and that. 9 times out of 10, we just want you to show up, just be present, come. As a mother, an active mother, an independent type person, I got to get a place for my kid. I got this and that. I got to do that. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. There's so much on my plate. So after 24 hours, the newness wore off and reality set in, and I had to hit the ground running. I
Wow.
didn't come home with anything. I'm starting all the way over. So if I had a do over, I would have took the time to learn my family from where they were today, from the day I came home, because I'm still holding on to who the person they were 10 years ago. They
Gotcha.
may be holding on to the person I was 10 years ago. I don't know, but I didn't take that time to get to know them for who they were,
Hmm.
and therefore we bumped heads. We bumped heads a lot.
Understandable. That's understandable, and that's common. You know what I mean. And a lot of times people do get caught up in time, rather you doing time or if you didn't do the time. Things happen throughout that time, and then like you say, you come home expecting one thing, but then it's something the total opposite.
Oh
So
yeah,
my situation is the same. But
yeah.
um, so if you could continue a little bit, like so that journey of when you started, feeling as though like reality is setting in, you have a lot on your plate. How did you think you was going to do it?
Oh man, it was rough. So um, my daughter, she was just so angry, and I didn't see that coming. I just knew I was gonna come home. She was gonna love all over me. That I know she was angry. She was like, "Why didn't you snitch? How do you know that?" That was her question. She was like, "Why didn't you snitch? Why did you leave me? Why didn't you just snitch?"
Yeah.
So I had to deal with that and get her to understand what that looked like. Um, then I'm grieving. My sisters, we're all grieving. We don't know how to look at the strongest person we know, and
Mm.
she's sitting here like fading away. So
Wow.
how, I'm dealing with grief, dealing with losing my mother. She accepted the fact that she was gone. She said, "I'm done with chemo. I live my life. I'm ready." You know, and we're just like, "Oh my goodness, like this is too much." So that
Yeah.
and I thank God though that I had a strong support system, regardless through it all. I had a strong
Mm.
support system. When I tell you,
Yeah.
they say you were lucky to get one or two friends, whatever. No, I have like five strong best friends, like that's
Wow.
gonna ride with me. Like so, I'm blessed to have family and friends
Yeah.
that just love me. Family, friends, my partner, everyone just came together and just was just there. And they was patient with me. And when I would be hard on myself, they were like, "Stop beating up." My friend Quinn, my best friend, she's like, "Stop being so hard on my friend. I'm not gonna allow you to
Yeah.
be hard on my friend." So they would
Yeah.
give me reality checks.
So when you came home, so okay, so throughout all of that, you wound up getting a job, or did you start your own business? Like, how did that look?
Okay, so when I came home, I ended up um, being my mother's home care
Oh wow.
lead. Yeah, so I ended up working for my mother. That helped me get a couple of dollars just to be there with my mom. And then in time, I ended up getting a job. But within that time, also um, my mom started a nonprofit in honor of my brother called Triumph Through Tragedy, and
Wow.
that was just she said even though it was a tragedy, we would triumph through. And her thing was just to celebrate life. She always just believed in if someone passes away, we just celebrate their life, and that was like a focus. So getting Triumph Through Tragedy up and running. I started selling T-shirts when I first came home. This was one of the shirts I had made, um, and I started doing shirts. My town supported me on the T-shirts that I was selling. I was just doing every little thing I could do just
Yeah.
to make a couple dollars.
Hmm.
So that was like that's what I did when I first came home. But then I'm working at a job. I did get a job for about a year. And then I realized like my mom passed away and I was like, you know what, working for people really is not
Wow.
for me. And I just started
Wow.
doing my own little thing on the side.
Okay. So you started your own business.
Yes, I started my own consulting services, Carin's consulting services.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
thank you. And with that is like, preparing taxes. And then I also
Mhm.
work on getting people to brand themselves. When I say brand yourself, If you got an idea, I don't care if you're not ready to start the idea tomorrow, today. You're ready to start it 5 years from now. Brand it today. Get an EIN for it. Put in an LLC.
Gotcha.
Like just start it now. Shelf it. So by the
So,
time you're ready to start it 5 years from now, you got life on it.
gotcha.
So I just encourage people just to do that. Like just
Yeah.
to go into small businesses, help them revamp it, get you in a position that say COVID
Yeah.
happens again, you can benefit from these loans because you're legit. You're
Yeah.
really running a business for 10 years, but you don't have on paper you
Absolutely.
running a business.
So let me ask you this. So we actually have the title, which is this is the Reentry Connect podcast. However, your title, subtitle is Reflections. So now what does Reflections represent?
So Reflections is the title of my up and coming book.
Your up and coming book,
Up and coming book, Reflections. I say
Reflection.
reflections because when you look in the mirror, it's your reflection. And it's like, what do you see when you look in that mirror? So in my cover, what I was trying to
Mhm.
bring to life was
Yeah.
one for me. I'm a businesswoman, corporate America, but when I
Yeah.
look in the mirror, you see someone that's in prison in cuffs.
Uh-huh.
And how did that happen?
Wow. Wow.
So, and it's
Gotcha.
internal. And to me, it was just internal things that I was battling with. And I didn't know how to, like I said, separate the two. I didn't know how to bring people up on my level. So I stooped down to their level. And,
Gotcha.
and I just, self destruct.
So you got the book coming out that's pretty soon, and it's tentative to what date of release.
This is
If,
definitely tentative.
if you're not sure, yeah, okay, it's okay, it's all right.
I'm aiming for June 26th. So I was sentenced June 26th.
so
So
you
we're pushing to have
aiming
it
for June
released
26th. And we know that you'll give us the info too. We're going to be dropping it. I'm quite sure once you send it to me, you're going to be promoting it as well. And that's what we're going to be looking for. We definitely going to be looking for your actual book, which is a blessing. So let me ask you. So I know like it's a lot of people in these comments, they just loving it. Again, Miss Helen says Richard Sills, Miss Candy, Janelle, Sherelle. You got a lot of supporters on here, and then even people over there over on LinkedIn. I mean, excuse me, yeah, LinkedIn and Instagram. Like I was sharing you, it says Sean, uh, just so fly. A
Oh,
lot of
that's
these
my
people are
sister.
really, yeah, they're really over here shouting you out. Um, yeah, and empowerment logistics. She says, yeah, it's a must read book. So this
Yeah.
your book must be really good. Um, that's a real blessing for you to have that coming out. So tell me, um, if you could encourage individuals right now, just in general, um, with life, maybe going through the same struggle that you're going through or went through, what type of um, advice would you give them right now?
I would honestly say, have faith, to trust the process. It may sound cliche when people say, when they talk about faith, and they say that one day at a time, but it's just so true. Like I would honestly tell people just to take life one day at a time, and don't allow the situation you're currently in to be your end all be all, and just think like see life outside of the current situation you're in right now. And that's how I vision my life outside of me. I was like, this ain't going to be me forever. So I just seen me outside and what that looked like. And I dreamed of it. And then when I came home, I was able to just, bring everything to life. So someone who's just stuck right now, I would say, hold on to your feet. You have to hold on to your feet. You have to have faith. You have to have faith that that today's not the end. That it will get better. But the only way it's going to get better if you believe it and if you just trust the process.
Trust the process. Trust the
Trust the
process.
process.
And
It's
then
so
I see,
cliche, but
yeah,
it's
and that's
true.
how we had to do it. And I see your little poster in the back. It says she's busy building her empire.
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement right there. Like, for people to latch on to. You have a doctor, Angeline Dean, she says, thank you for sharing your story. You are a blessing. We appreciate you from over there on LinkedIn. This is a powerful thing. Like I say, your story. We also know that your book is coming out soon. People are definitely going to be lined up and in tune. Please let me know because we can actually do another show just for your book to promote and let people know that your story must be heard and it can save a lot of young people. And
Yeah.
you're still young yourself. Now, how old are you now? Come on for pretty. You only
Oh,
look 21.
oh,
You only look
I'm going
21.
to take
Like you
that.
did
I'm,
20
I'm
years.
41 at
Oh,
20 years.
what?
Yeah.
You look
And
great.
that's
You look
what I
great.
have here. It says, prison preserved my body, but God preserved my mind.
Wow, that's a blessing.
Yeah, because it's the truth, and like I said, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my goal is just to touch someone's life. Like,
yeah.
needs us. They need to know that our stories are real. What we've been through is real. And
Mhm.
social media, like you said, it glamorized a whole different life. That's just not reality. And
Yeah. And that's powerful. That's powerful. And we want to just thank you one more time for coming to the Reentry Connect podcast. I'm your host, Keenan Hudson.
thank you for
Yes,
having me.
here with Reflections with Miss Carin Sills. We really appreciate, everything you shared. People be on the lookout for different reels because she's touched on a lot of powerful things throughout this interview. And this message was just very powerful. And if you know anybody that are in prison, you know any young girls that are in group homes facing these struggles doing, doing things in their lives or during child pregnancy, she's pretty much Miss Carin touched on so many different things, different aspects of life. Remember, this platform is about bringing awareness, sharing information, resources, and the way we may have coped with things, even from being in prison. But then some people may come on here and may not have been in prison, but they can still give you insight because we can always learn from somebody. Always remember that. But until next time, Miss Carin, we thank you for
Thank you.
coming and sharing.
Yes,
Everybody, again, they showed endless support
yes,
on these
thank you.
platforms, and we appreciate it. But
Yes.